ॐ ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। हरि ओम, जय गुरुदेव। ओम श्री परमात्मने नमः। श्री भगवानुवाच मय्यासक्तमना पार्थ योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः असंशयं समग्रं मां यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु। ज्ञानं तेहं सविज्ञानमिदं वक्ष्याम्यशेषतः यज्ञात्वा नेह भूयोऽन्यत् ज्ञातव्यमवशिष्यते। मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चिद्यतति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन्मा वेत्ति तत्त्वतः। भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इति यं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां। जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय। अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा मत्तः परतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय। मयि सर्वमिदं प्रोतं सूत्रे मणिगणा इव। रसोऽहमप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः। प्रणव सर्ववेदेषु शब्दः खे पौरुषं नृषु। पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ। जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु। बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनम्। बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमताम् अस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम्। बलं बलवतां चाहं कामरागविवर्जितम्। धर्माविरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोऽस्मि भरतर्षभ। ये चैव सात्विका भावा राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धि न त्वहं तेषु ते मयि। त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैः एभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम् दैवी ह्येषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेता तरन्ति ते न मां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः माययापहृतज्ञाना आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः चतुर्विद्या भजन्ते मां जनाः सुकृतिनोऽर्जुन आर्तो जिज्ञासुरर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभा तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्त एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानित्यर्थम् अहं स च मम प्रियः उदारा सर्व एवैते ज्ञानित्वात्मैव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम् बहूनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेव सर्वमिति स महात्मा सुदुर्लभः कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्तेऽन्यदेवताः तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धां तामेव विदधाम्यहम् स तया श्रद्धया युक्तस्तस्याराधनमीहते लभते च ततः कामान् मय्येव विहितान् हितान् अन्तवत्तु फलं तेषां तद्भवत्यल्पमेधसां देवान् देवयजो यान्ति मद्भक्ता यान्ति मामपि अव्यक्तं व्यक्तिमापन्नं मन्यन्ते माम बुद्धयः परं भावमजानन्तो ममाव्ययमनुत्तमम् नाहं प्रकाश सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजमव्ययम् वेदाहं समतीतानि वर्तमानानि चार्जुन भविष्याणि च भूतानि मां तु वेद न कश्चन We were looking at the verse 23, I think, 24. I will just browse through the text quickly for the previous verses. Avyakam vyaktimapannam manyante amudayah bhavamajananto mamavyam. Those who lack discrimination, not knowing my limitless, changeless nature, beyond which there is nothing greater, look upon me who is formless as one endowed with a manifest form. Lack of discrimination denies recognition of Ishvara. Just a minute. Yeah, I think I will browse through the text for verse 23 all as well, so that we can have the connection, we can have the link which is established. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavatyalpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. But for those who have limited discrimination, that result is finite. Those who worship the gods go to the gods. Those who worship me go to me indeed. For those of limited discrimination, the result is limited. Tesham alpa medhasam. Alpa means a little. Medhas means capacity to think. So, alpa medhas is one who has a limited capacity to think, to inquire. Because they engage in such limited pursuits, they are alpa medhasa. Tat phalam antavat bhavati. The result of all the karmas they do is antavat. Antavat means that which has an end. In terms of time, being a result, it will be definitely, it will perish. In terms of place, it is finite. Any result that takes you to another place is limited, because in going to one place, another is missed. So this is about the when we do the Kamya Karmas. Devan Deva Yajah Yanti. Because they worship various devtas or perform rituals invoking various deities, they are called Deva Yajah. As a result of such worship, they go only to those devas, Devan Yanti. They go to the world where the particular deity resides and become devatas. Those who seek Ishvara directly gain him. Mada bhaktaha mam apiyanti. Whereas those who seek me directly come to me, they become me. If they want to know what is Parameshwara, what is this Atma, Kshamyatam, if they want to know what is Parameshwara, what is this Atma, they become me, because Parameshwara is Atma. What was said before is confirmed here. They become Mahatmas who know that all this is Vasudeva. Vasudevaha Sarvam. There is only one Atma, which is me, and that they come to recognize as themselves. Thus, they come to me alone. So both make effort, but the result is vast, different. For a ritual, you make a lot of effort, and to conduct this inquiry, you make a lot of effort. But for the first, you get a limited result, and for the other, the result is limitless. The very seeker is resolved. What kind of a bargain it is? This, there is no bargain at all. And for the Viveki, there is no choice either. Only for the Aviveki does there seem to be some choice. So even the effort is disparate. Paramatma, the effort, however, is not really equal. Paramatma is not separate from Atma, the seeker. I repeat, there was a breaking of voice. Even the effort is disparate. The effort, however, is not really equal. Paramatma is not separate from Atma, the seeker. It is already accomplished. It is oneself alone. And yet, without Viveka, a person abandons it and pursues something else. He has nectar in his hand and he gives it up and extends his hand for some gruel. As Brahmaraji yesterday said, this line we have to remember. He has nectar in his hand and he gives it up and extend his hand for some gruel. Atma is already available without any effort. He has only to claim it, nothing else. Only one effort is involved here, knowledge. But if he does not discern this, he has a lot of things to do. If he has vairagya, a clarity about what produces what, and if he loves knowledge, all he has to do is only to inquire. What effort is there in that? And yet, when he undertakes this pursuit, the whole society will sympathize with him, thinking that he is making a great sacrifice and wondering what is wrong with him. But he doesn't feel he has sacrificed anything. He has a commitment to the pursuit of knowledge, and so there is no real giving up and no effort. So the one who is real Vairagi and real Tattvavid, for him, he doesn't make any effort. It falls off automatically. The dispassion comes without any effort. So, in fact, there is no equality of effort. And in terms of the result, they are definitely different. So, the one who has desires and they do different desire fulfilling yagyas, or they um, worship different deities, their comparison is done with the one who comes only to the Parameshwara as Atma. So, in fact, there is no equality of effort. And in terms of the result, they are definitely different. One is samsara, the other is moksha. They are opposites. But still, people do not come directly to Bhagavan. So, he shows him sympathy here in this verse. Those who seek me directly attain me, while those who look upon our artha and kama pursuits invoke various deities and gain only the limited results they seek. Krishna has already explained the meaning of the word mam, me, here as the one who is the self of everything, the one the Jnani knows as himself. He says that these people recognize his essential form and therefore are non-separate from him, the Lord. The whole presentation here is from the standpoint of Paramatma. Either Vyasa introduces Krishna here as Ishvara, or Krishna introduces himself as Ishvara. Whether Krishna was a historical figure or an avatara or not does not matter. In this verse, he is introduced very clearly. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyante mama buddhayah param bhavamajananto mamavyayamanutamam. This also we had seen. I will quickly browse through. Those who lack discrimination, not knowing my limitless, changeless nature, beyond which there is nothing greater, look upon me who is formless as one endowed with a manifest form. Lack of discrimination denies recognition of Ishvara. Abuddhayaha means those who have insufficient viveka. The negative particle a here means inadequacy, as used often in an expression such as I have no money. Everyone has intellect, buddhi. But if they lack viveka, they are called abuddhis, people of limited discrimination. In the context here, they are devotees, but because they are abuddhis, lacking in discrimination, they look upon me as Vishnu in this particular form of Krishna. Avyaktam mam vyaktim apanam manyante. They look upon me who is avyakta as vyakta. Avyakta has two meanings. Shankara takes it here as aprakasha, not known as an object. It is not accessible to means of knowledge we have and therefore is not known directly. The other meaning of avyakta is unmanifest. Because they lack discrimination, they look upon me as now endowed with a particular manifest form. Manyante vyaktim apannam. I repeat, there was a breaking of voice. The other meaning of avyakta is unmanifest. Because they lack discrimination, they look upon me as now endowed with a particular manifest form. Manyante vyaktim apannam. I am considered to be Lord Vishnu, who was in heaven, Vaikuntha, and has now come here as Krishna. So they seek Lord Krishna as with person with the attributes. Ishvara's real nature is not known. Why do they consider me as Vyaktim Apana when I am Avyakta? Because they do not know my limitless nature. Mama Param Bhavam Ajanantah. They do not know my limitless nature, the nature of Paramatma. So it looks as though what is avyakta has become vyakta. The word vyakta can be looked at in another way. The nature of Paramatma, Ishvara, is always vyakta, always manifest. It is always available. Nitya aparoksha, for the following reasons. Any experience is imbued with the very nature of Atma. Whatever the experience, there is the presence of consciousness, the nature of Atma. A given experience is of an object which was previously away from you and has now come into the range of your experience. Since it was not there before, it will not be there in the same form the next minute. The object can also be a thought form without a corresponding external object. Whatever be the object, in the experience of every object, one thing is invariable: experience. The object is a qualifying factor to experience. Without a particular object, there is pure experience. Just as though all the beads of a necklace runs one thread, similarly, in all forms of experience, what is always present is consciousness, the Svarupa of Atma. Is it away from you? That is it Paroksha? Is it perceived by you as an object, Pratyaksha? If it is, it was not perceived previously and therefore later it won't be perceived. This contradicts our experience of ourselves. Atma is not an object of perception, much less an object of inference. All inference is because of the presence of Atma. Therefore, Atma is neither something remote that is inferred, paroksha, nor an object of perceptual experience, pratyaksha. That is why it is called aparoksha. It is immediately known, yet not perceived or inferred. These are very important paragraphs. I repeat once again. The word vyakta can be looked at in another way. The nature of Paramatma, Ishvara, is always vyakta, always manifest. It is always available, nitya aparoksha, for the following reasons. Any experience is imbued with the very nature of Atma. Whatever the experience, there is the presence of consciousness, the nature of Atma. A given experience is of an object which was previously away from you and has now come into the range of your experience. Since it was not there before, it will not be there in the same form the next minute. The object can also be a thought form without a corresponding external object. Whatever be the object, in the experience of every object, one thing is invariable: experience. The object is a qualifying factor to experience. Without a particular object, there is pure experience. Just as through all the beads of a necklace runs one thread, similarly, in all forms of experience, what is always present is consciousness, the Swarupa of Atma. Is it away from you? That is it Praroksha? Is it perceived by you as an object, Pratyaksha? If it is, it was not perceived previously and therefore later it won't be perceived. This contradicts our experience of ourselves. Atma is not an object of perception, much less an object of inference. All inference is because of the presence of Atma. Therefore, Atma is neither something remote that is inferred, Paroksha, nor an object of perceptual experience, Pratyaksha. That is why it is called Aparoksha. It is immediately known, yet not perceived or inferred. So beautiful. An orientation can persist after knowledge. One who knows this contemplates upon the knowledge constantly bringing me Parmeshwar to his mind. This recollection is always preceded by listening to the Shastra, Shravana. Unless you have already collected an experience, you cannot recollect it. Parmeshwara is understood through the Shastra. But even after exposure to the Shastra and analysis of it, one can still have the orientation that he is the body. This is called Deha Atma Buddhi. Dehatma Buddhi. I repeat, this is very, very important. An orientation can persist after knowledge. One who knows this contemplates upon the knowledge, constantly recalling me, Parmeshwara, to his mind. This recollection is always preceded by listening to the Shastra, Shravana. Unless you have already collected an experience, you cannot recollect it. Parmeshwara is understood through the Shastra. But even after exposure to the Shastra and analysis of it, one can still have the orientation that he is the body. This is called Dehatma Buddhi. There is a difference between an orientation and a confusion. A simple confusion requires clarification only once. Suppose you use the wrong key to unlock a door. You immediately understand the confusion because the door does not open. Therefore, you choose the right key and confusion is resolved. There is no further problem. But suppose a door gets sealed off and a wall is erected behind it. Even though you know there is no longer a functional door there, out of habit, you will try to open it for some time. Then you remember yourself. This is an orientation. So beautiful. I read once again. It is very, very nice example given by Swamiji. There is a difference between an orientation and a confusion. A simple confusion requires clarification only once. Suppose you use the wrong key to unlock a door. You immediately understand the confusion because the door does not open. Therefore, you choose the right key and confusion is resolved. There is no further problem. But suppose a door gets sealed off and a wall is erected behind it. Even though you know there is no longer a functional door there, out of habit, you will try to open it for some time. Then you remember yourself. This is an orientation. For me, this problem is very visible. When I travel by car, I always sit in the passenger seat. In India, I know the cars have right-hand drive. and that I am supposed to go to the left door, not to the right door. But when I go to India after being in America for some time, I go only to the right door. Why? There is no confusion. I know what is left and right. I know in America it is left hand drive and in India right hand drive. But still I commit a mistake because there is an orientation. When there is such an orientation, you have to remember. It does not go away just because you have resolved the confusion. Nor does it go by a single recollection of what you know. The notion that Atma is the body and the body is Atma is what we call Dehatma Buddhi. This confusion is resolved by the Shastra. Once it is resolved, you should not have any problem. But we see that the problem continues. Either the Shastra is not properly understood or the problem continues because of orientation. Even in one life, so many years have been invested in this notion. How are you going to remove it just because somebody said Tatvamasi? The orientation has to go. How does one correct the orientation? To help remove this orientation, we need the exposure to the teaching, direct and indirect. Then there is what we call Brahma Abhyasa, which consists of dwelling upon that, Tat Chintanam, talking about it, Tat Kathanam, mutual discussion among seekers, Anyonyam Tat Prabodhanam. I repeat as there was breaking of voice. How does one correct the orientation? To help remove this orientation, we need the exposure to the teaching, direct and indirect. Then there is what we call Brahmabhyasa, which consists of dwelling upon that, Tat Chintanam, talking about it, Tat Kathanam, mutual discussion among seekers, Anyonyam Tat Prabodhanam. Contemplation is also included. Living with the knowledge in this way for a length of time is remembering, smaranam, and it is absolutely necessary. So I think we have to remember the smaranam, and through that the samipyam, sayujyam can be, and sanyogam can with Paramatma can be obtained. This is to be done as long as anyone wants me to repeat any paragraph, please let me know. Or if you want to share anything, kindly unmute and share. Very, very beautiful paragraph Swamiji has explained with wonderful examples to remember. So our orientation is so strong since we are conditioned to that Dehabhyasa. So from that orientation, to correct that orientation, we have to do Brahmabhyasa through various means, that is through Tat Chintanam, Tat Kathanam and Tat Prabodhanam. And through that we can be that Swarupa. We can feel that Samipya. We can feel that this is to be done as long as necessary. Shankara says elsewhere, Satatam Smarati Nityasaha. Nityasaha means always, and so does Satata. Why does he use two words with the same meaning? Satata has the sense of without any interval, remembering Ishvara constantly. Remembering here is spending one's time in contemplation, in dwelling on the truth of Ishvara as revealed by the words of the Shastra. The word Nityasaha also means always, but it has the sense of a length of time. You can dwell constantly for 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, or 1 year. So constantly, for how long is this to be done? For this, Bhagavan says, Nitya Saha, for a long time. The affix sas on Nitya gives the meaning of abundance. Nitya means always, and adding sas to it extends it. It is not a 1 or 2 days or a 3-year affair. It is to be done as long as one is alive. I repeat once again, this is to be done as long as necessary. Shankara says elsewhere, Satatam Smarati Nityasaha. Nityasaha means always, and so does Satata. Why does he use two words with the same meaning? Satata has the sense of without any interval, remembering Ishvara constantly. Remembering here is spending one's time in contemplation, in dwelling on the truth of Ishvara as revealed by the words of the Shastra. The word Nitya Saha also means always, but it has the sense of a length of time. You can dwell constantly for 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, or 1 year. So constantly, for how long is this to be done? For this, Bhagavan says, Nitya Saha, for a long time. The affix Sas on Nitya gives the meaning of abundance. Nitya means always, and adding Sas to it extends it. Not a 1 or 2 day or 3-year affair. It is to be done as long as one is alive. But it is not an unpleasant task. It is a very pleasant affair. Constantly remembering the fact that Aham is Parameshwara is something that one loves. It is the highest form of joy. I repeat, there was a breaking of voice, but it is not an unpleasant task. It is a very pleasant affair. Constantly remembering the fact that Aham is Parameshwara is something that one loves. It is the highest form of joy because you cannot be better than that. It is not simple self-hypnotism. It is not simple self-hypnotism. It is a knowledge born of Shastra. And again, we dwell upon that. Somehow the mind will pose the question, how can I be Parmeshwara? It may argue, how can you be Parmeshwara in spite of a backache? You now have a contemplative theme. This is how the contemplation continues. Anything that opposes the vision has to be met with. How long should this go on? Shankara says, as long as one is alive. In the beginning, perhaps it is something that has to be done consciously. Then later, it becomes very natural. There is really nothing for you to think about. If the fact Aham Parameshwarah is very clear to you, then there is no problem. Your mind does not pose any objections. Neither a mental condition nor a condition of the physical body is taken to be the nature of Atma. Things are viewed as they are. In this case, one does not need to do anything. But when someone requires smarana, for how long should it be done? As long as it has got to be done, it is done. The one who constantly dwells upon me through listening, answering objections, contemplation, and even satsanga, as long as he is alive, for him I am Sulabha, easily gained, says the Lord. Such a beautiful revelation. I will read the last paragraph. But when someone requires smarana, for how long should it be done? As long as it has got to be done, it is done. the one who constantly dwells upon me through listening, answering objections, contemplation, and even satsanga. As long as he is alive, for him I am sulabha, easily gained, says the Lord. So beautiful. The gain of Parameshwara is easy, sulabha. There are a number of reasons why Ishvara is easily gained. Any accomplishment requires some effort, even wearing your clothes. Suppose you have a shirt that is a little tight. When you are in a great hurry, you would rather not wear it because it takes a half a minute extra to put it on. You want to avoid that extra time and effort. Now, suppose you need some money. You have to put in effort. If you want power, you have to put in effort. If you want pleasure, it takes some effort on your part. To create a pleasurable situation, you have to manipulate a lot of things. Only then can you relax and enjoy. And if you want to go to heaven, a lot of effort is involved. A lot of things have to be avoided. A lot of things have to be done. But the gain of Brahman is Sulabha, says the Lord. While going to Brahmaloka requires the maximum amount of effort, gaining Brahman is no effort. If it is argued that always dwelling upon Brahman is an effort, it is not, because there is no effort in dwelling upon what you love. Everybody loves to stand before the mirror. Even an old man who has cataracts in his eyes and does not see well at all still stands before the mirror and tries to look at himself. Why? Because of love for Atma. So here it is not an effort, because love is not an effort. It is very natural. For a mumukshu, dwelling upon Parameshwara is a matter of love. And it is very natural because Atma is of the nature of absolute love. Any form of love extended towards any object is, after all, for my sake. That object makes me pleased and therefore becomes an object of my love. What I really love is my pleased self, Atma. And since Atma is Parameshwara, whose nature is Ananda, there is nothing more to be desired. Being absolute fullness, Atma becomes the object of absolute love. So dwelling upon it becomes a joyous thing because it is the most desirable. Dwelling upon it is not a painful affair. It is a love affair. It is what you love the most, the utmost. So it reminds me of Gurudev's Vakya, always rise in love. Do not fall in love. So here, so beautifully, Swamiji has explained that Sayujyam with Parameshwara is nothing but pure love. And nothing new is produced either. If you want me to repeat or read anything, please let me know. And nothing new is produced either, because Atma is already existent as Parameshwara. The result is not born of effort. It is born purely of recognition. There is no effort involved. Nothing new is added. Nothing old is removed. The accomplishment is of an already accomplished fact. Therefore, it is sulabha, easily gained. Then you may argue that the removal of ignorance is an effort. In fact, you only recognize, and in the recognition, ignorance gets removed. You do not do any action. It is purely activity of the pramana. Therefore, it is sulabha. The one who dwells upon me is endowed with a mind which is tranquil, contented, and under control, in the sense that it does not have any problem with reference to reflection on Parameshwara. I read once again. Then you may argue that the removal of ignorance is an effort. In fact, you only recognize, and in the recognition, ignorance gets removed. You do not do any action. It is purely an activity of the pramana. Therefore, it is sulabha. The one who dwells upon me is endowed with a mind which is tranquil, contented, and under control, in the sense that it does not have any problem with reference to reflection on Parameshwara. Whenever the mind is free, it goes towards Bhagavan, like a person in love with someone. The mind very naturally goes towards the object of love. It does not require an appointment. Similarly here, the mind of a mumukshu, a jignashu, will naturally go towards Paramatma, the Vastu. He has understood the nature of Paramatma as something that is not different than himself. So where else will the mind go? Until that takes place, he continues to do Shravana. Will is used in the beginning and later the very subject matter takes over. Afterwards, he doesn't require any will at all. It is something like going to a Kumbh Mela. You don't require a road map. All you have to do is get into a crowd that is going. Soon the momentum of the crowd is so great that even if you want to go back, you cannot. It becomes like a moving ramp. People from behind push you and you keep moving. You are in the stream. You keep moving and you find yourself right in front of Ganga. This is exactly what happens here. A certain will is required until you get into this stream of thinking, of understanding. Once a certain clarity is there, there is no effort at all. In the previous verse, Krishna said that these people who lack discrimination, not knowing my real nature, look upon me as someone who has a form. They think I am someone remote from them, who has assumed a body and come here from another place. In fact, I am the whole world and I am the Atma of everyone. This is my real nature. Changeless, beyond which there is nothing great. Not knowing me in this way, they regard me as having a given form. Shankara asks, what is the reason for this ignorance? Why do they worship other devatas and pursue smaller ends? Why do people not directly seek the Lord? Krishna points this out in the next verse. So beautiful. So feeling that Sayujyam with Parameshwara requires no effort at all. We just have to be free from that Dehabhyas. And we have to recognize our real Swarupa, which is nothing but Sat Chit Ananda Atma, Parameshwara, Paramatma. Anyone wants to share or wants me to read anything before we go to the next verse? Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah mudho yam nabhijanati loko mamajam avyayam. Yogamaya samavritah, completely covered by Yogamaya. Sarvasya, for everyone. Na aham prakashah. I am not recognized, known. Ayam lokaha. This person, world. Mudhaha. Being deluded. Ajam. One who is unborn. Avyayam. One who is changeless. Mam. Me. Na abhijanati. Does not know. Yogamaya samavritah sarvasya na aham prakashah ayam lokah mudhah ajam avyayam mam na abhijanati. I am not recognized by everyone. A person completely covered by Yogamaya, Maya united with the three gunas, is deluded and does not know me properly as the one who is unborn and changeless. I repeat, I am not recognized by everyone. A person completely covered by Yogamaya, Maya united with the three gunas, is deluded and does not know me properly as the one who is unborn and changeless. Another alternate reading. I completely covered by Maya, united with the three gunas, am not recognized by everyone. A person is deluded and does not know me properly as the one who is unborn and changeless. I repeat, alternate reading. I, completely covered by Maya, united with the three gunas, am not recognized by everyone. A person is deluded and does not know me properly as the one who is unborn and changeless. Covered by Maya, not everyone recognizes Bhagavan. Na Akashah Sarvasya. I am not known to all people. Na aham prakashah means I do not come to light. I repeat as there was a breaking of voice. Na aham prakashah sarvasya. I am not known to all people. Na aham prakashah means I do not come to light. Even the people who see me now see only this boy from Brindavan. They do not recognize me, Ishvara, at all. The Lord says, I cannot be known by all people. And Shankara adds here that the Lord can be seen only by certain bhaktas, certain seekers. This means Ishvara comes to light only for those who seek him and are qualified to recognize him, not to everyone. Why? I read once again the last line. This means Ishvara comes to light only for those who seek him and are qualified to recognize him, not to everyone. Why? People are covered by Maya. Lokaha Yoga Maya Samavritaha. Yoga, Shankara says, means the connection or trying together of the three gunas. Shamyatam, tying together of the three gunas. I read once again. People are covered by Maya. Lokaha Yoga Maya Samavritaha. Yoga, Shankara says, means the connection or tying together of the three gunas. That is Maya. By that Maya, united to the three gunas, they are covered. Previously, it was said that people are deluded by the three gunas. Tribhah gunam mayyah bhavaih ebhihi sarvam idam jagat mohitam. It is the chapter 7, verse 30. I repeat the sentence. Previously, it was said that people are deluded by the three gunas. Tribihi, guna maihi, bhavaihi, ebihi, sarvam idam jagata mohitam. As we saw, it is the product of the gunas that delude. Sattva accounts for happiness, rajas for sorrow, and tamas for dullness. By these, people are covered. Avrita means covered, and samavrita means totally covered. By these, yoga maya, the three gunas and their products, people are totally covered. So, with the prabhava of yoga maya, samsaris are completely covered. What is covered? The
It
question
is
is,
so
what is
fun
covered?
to hear that how Swamiji describing this. Totally covered.
Yes,
Oh my God.
such
Oh
one
my God.
word for it, he's giving such a long description, wonderful way.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming at it, like one by one, like Avrita and then some Avrita, like some yoga, like that, some Avrita. Totally
Yes,
covered.
yes. So beautiful. So that avarana, which is transparent or not transparent, that also we will come to know.
No, Avrana is like that false ignorance, right? The
Yeah,
which
yeah, false. Veil of
delusion.
ignorance, correct.
Mhm. And this part of it is where it's covered. Now we have to uncover it. That's what
Hmm.
is covered, and uncovering and discovering, all that comes later, right?
Yeah. What is covered? The question is what is covered? Suppose consciousness, Atma is covered, then you would not be able to know anything. There would be no world. That is, there will be Jagadandhya Prasanga. Prasanga. Ramaraji, kindly correct me if my pronunciation is wrong. I will read the footnote. The possibility of the world being absent for a person. So that will, if the Atma is covered, then there will be Jagadandhya Prasanga.
Dandya, yeah, Dandya Prasanga.
Jagadandhya Prasanga. Prasanga. Jagadandhya means being blind to the world. This is contrary to our experience. We do experience the world, and consciousness is not covered by anything. That is why we are able to see, to hear, to think, even to say, I am a samsari and therefore a mumukshu. All this is possible because consciousness is never covered. I read once again, there was a breaking of voice. What is covered? The question is what is covered? Suppose consciousness, Atma, is covered, then you would not be able to know anything. There would be no world. That is, there will be Jagadandhya Prasanga. You must know this expression. It is one that is used often in the Shastra. How would there be no world? If the eyes are obstructed, I cannot see. If the ears or any of the five sense organs are obstructed, they cannot perceive. Similarly, suppose consciousness is really obstructed by this yoga maya, then you will not perceive anything. The mind will not be able to observe the world. There would be Jagadandhya Prasanga. Jagadandhya means being blind to the world. This is contrary to our experience. We do experience the world, and consciousness is not covered by anything. That is why we are able to see, to hear, to think, even to say, I am a samsari and therefore a mumukshu. All this is possible because consciousness is never covered. Then what is covered? The verse says, Lokah. Loka is defined as that by which something is known, experienced. Lokyate anena iti. If that is so, is it the unconditioned consciousness, Atma Chaitanya, or is it the consciousness conditioned as a knower, Pramatra Chaitanya, that is indicated by the word Loka? Consciousness is never covered. We have seen that. Therefore, Loka here means the knower, Pramatra Chaitanya, the one who recognizes an object. It is only from his standpoint that there is covering. What is covered for him is the nature of Atma. It is not understood. All understanding is for the knower. Therefore, it is from his standpoint that we say the nature of Atma is covered by Maya, by ignorance. It is mistaken for a doer, an enjoyer, and therefore someone subject to birth and death, etc. The whole thing is an error on the part of the knower who is consciousness essentially. That very consciousness obtaining as the knower is covered by ignorance. I think so. Should we stop here for the moment? If you want me to read anything before we stop for Manana, please do let me know.
Just read this last paragraph one more time and then we'll stop for Manana.
Yeah. What is covered for him is the nature of Atma. It is not understood. All understanding is for the knower. Therefore, it is from his standpoint that we say the nature of Atma is covered by Maya, by ignorance. It is mistaken for a doer, an enjoyer, and therefore someone subject to birth and death, etc. The whole thing is an error on the part of the knower who is consciousness essentially. That very consciousness obtaining as the knower is covered by ignorance. I will just read the shlokas, what we covered, and then we will close for Manana. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavatyalpameधसां devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. But for those who have limited discrimination, that result is finite. Those who worship the gods go to the gods. Those who worship me go to me indeed. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyante mama buddhayaha param bhavamajananto mamavyayamanutamam. Those who lack discrimination, not knowing my limitless, changeless nature, beyond which there is nothing greater, look upon me who is formless as one endowed with a manifest form. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah moyam nabhijanati loko mamajamavyayam. I think we will stop for the Manana. If you want me to read anything, just let me know. Otherwise, we will close our eyes for a few seconds and we will contribute for Manana, our takeaways for today. Hari Om, kindly unmute and share your takeaways.
We are talking about verse 24, right? Is that the one we are doing? Avyaktam. I thought you read the Antavat.
Oh, we did both of them today.
23 and 24? Oh, okay. I
Yes, we
thought
did
you said
23, 24.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about here that two kinds of people, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, they make it as two kinds of people, but describing one who lacks the discrimination, dispassion as one who recognize the Ishvara's limited nature, like in the manifest form. So they reach the limited end. Whereas the who I think the orientation and all that came about. Yeah. So when you know what not knowing real nature, Ishvara's real nature is not known. That was where we talked about uh, combining this consciousness with the mind and objects, that is known to be an experience. So, uh, that's how we recognize this Parameshwara, like Atma. That one, that's what I thought I got from that. And then we're talking about the orientation, whether it's a confusion or orientation, like where one has this is where I think I probably got everything mixed up again. You were saying about the words, right? That Katanam, Smaranam, that's the two things I remember. The Chintanam, Katanam, and so how you orient yourself to help remove this, the practicing about Brahma Abhyasa.
Yeah,
You
that's Smaranam. That's Smaranam.
Tat Chintanam, Gatanam, Anya, you discuss with your peer, this similar minded folks, and then the Smaranam, which is The last one, I forgot the other one.
It is Tat Chintanam. That is what we call Brahma Vyasa, which consists of dwelling upon that Tat Chintanam.
Yeah.
That is
So
dwelling, and then talking about it is Tat Kathanam. And
Chintan
mutual
is
discussion among
thinking about-
seekers is Anyonyam Tat Prabodhanam.
Right, that's a mutual
Contemplation,
discussion
yeah,
among. No, the contemplation is also included. It says,
yeah, is also
but
included.
then
Living with the knowledge in this way for a length of time is
the
remembering,
time
smaranam,
smaranam.
and it is absolutely necessary.
Mm. Yeah,
That is
so that's
why in Shankaracharya says in
Mm.
Sadhana Panchakam or something, it says every day you should do Adhyayana, Vedanta Shravana, Manana has to be done every day. It's beautiful Sadhana Panchakam. It's what are the 5 aspects that a householder has to follow in his sadhana. One of that is included is this Vedanta Shravana. You have to go to Tat Chintanam, Tat Kathanam, Anyonyam, Tat Prabodhanam, and then Smaranam.
So you remember to practice. Basically, Brahma Abhyasa is meaning like that I am Brahman, and that type of the thought, and also seeing all beings in everything, I mean yourself in everything. So then that becomes the Paramatma, right? The nature of Paramatma is all pervading. So that that's Satatam Smarati Nityasaha. So I'm like looking at it. So he's saying you think about it always, and as long as not just 1 or 2 days like that. Maybe you have to think as long as you live. That's the what that he was talking about, like Satatam. Satatam Smarami. What is that word? Satatam Smarati Nityasaha. Aham Parameshwaraha. So that is another, how can I be Parameshwara? So despite our body mind complex, that if we have that thought, we revel in that, and you know that you are Parameshwara, and your Aham Parameshwara is clear to you. So there's no problem. So that's where this is kind of, I couldn't get all things together, but then what he saying is gaining this thing is easy, sulabha, that without much of an effort, he says. But for getting into even material things, or the going to heaven or Brahmaloka, you have to put in a lot of effort, whereas for this thing, you're not putting that much of an effort. Gaining Brahman is no effort. It's easy, he says. So that's...
Actually, all of this is very, very introspective.
Yeah.
Maybe we will repeat this one more time tomorrow before we go to the next verse.
Yeah, because this
also,
is 24 and 25 is connected, because
yeah,
how you uncover this Brahma from the ignorance point of view.
yeah, even that aspect of orientation and that example that he gives, where Swamiji, when he's in US versus in India, when he gets to sit in the car, how he, by orientation,
Right.
that orientation of the body consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think will require one more reading for us to understand. And here,
I
what
think
was nice was how can somehow the mind will pose the question, how can I be Parameshwara? It may argue, how can you be Parameshwara in spite of a backache? Backache
right.
is something which is limiting you. It is like bringing you down to a limitation. You're experiencing some pain. You have a backache or a headache. How can I be Parameshwara, who is omniscient, omnipotent, everywhere, who is Asatchid Ananda? I'm suffering here from this headache or backache. So, this thing, now you have a contemplative theme. This is how the contemplation continues.
Yeah,
So,
while I
any
was reading this, I had this thought, like, I mean, I'm, will be 65 next month, but then all
mm,
the things, we are so limited in ourselves, like we can only do so much, and you have to prove everything, to you're good at something or whatever, so it's all through the senses, and we have to see it to believe it, all that. So when we say about this God, of course, we were in this, we all, worshipped in the form and rupa so far, name and rupa. But then again, now we are having a better understanding. So this is where this, when you say I am Parameshwara, Aham Parameshwara, all of a sudden to tell yourself that, you need a little bit more um, information, for us to say it. Now at least we can say I am Brahman, but then all of a sudden I am Parameshwara, like, so that part, still we have to increase that knowledge
yeah,
part of it.
we are at
So,
the stage where we can say, I am not the mind, body, and all that. Although
right,
we still
yeah,
experience whatever the body is going through, we experience the pain, we
right,
experience the hurt, humiliation, loss of a person, we experience the sadness. All that is there, but there is a little gap that is developing between
yeah,
you and all of this. There is that
that's it.
gap that's
Yeah,
happening.
yeah,
So the more we are at it, at this, the greater the gap becomes. And then finally, ultimately, that thing happens. And
yeah.
so
Thank yeah,
for a
that was
Mumunchu,
the thing.
yeah, go ahead,
How
Doctor.
how we think in our own mind, like that way. But as we that's how I felt it. Like we have to, because of this kind of logic that we have to put it. That logic doesn't really apply here. Looks like, So it's. We get it, but then how we going to view ourselves, that how yourself recognize that rather than viewing thing.
I think what we'll do is we'll go through these one more time tomorrow, because it's all about the actual sadhana that needs to be done, how to recognize and how it is easy, that orientation. We'll go through
Yeah,
that one more time tomorrow.
it's very neat, like the 23 also to be included, I think.
Mm,
I mean, they're all connected like the
correct,
beads in a string. Like,
correct.
yeah,
Hari Om, Brahmaraji. Yeah, it is very, thank you for the repeating thing. I believe that it has so much connection with our chapter 6th
Six.
also.
Yeah.
Yesterday, what we saw, no, the Samyoga, Viyoga with Dukkha.
Correct.
Throughout the reading, I was contemplating on that same verse, dissociation with the association with Dukkha.
Sorry.
We have to
Correct.
Sanyoga, Viyoga. So we will repeat once again.
Yeah.
And it is so much in line with this.
Mm.
Dhanyavad, Brahmaraji.
Jai Gurudev, and not only that, we can practically implement, it's so beautifully we can.
Mm.
Very helpful. Yes, we have to repeat. Thank you, Brahmaraji, for repeat.
So should we go to chapter 6?
And even this Vikshepa, so beautifully it was described in chapter 7 right now that we read, that it is not completely covering. If your eyes are completely covered, how can you see? So that is something very subtle. So let's go through that. Ignorance makes impossible possible. So yesterday we saw how from, where is that? Why is sorrow so well entrenched? It is because the dukhi, you're trying to, the dukhi, it is the dukhi, the sad person who wants to pull out of dukkha. So you are in that state where you say, I'm a human being, I'm a mortal, I'm a man, I'm young, old, etc. The one associated with sorrow, this is exactly what I is. The person thinks of himself or herself as limited, small, a samsari, one who is subject to pain and sorrow. That very aham, I, the ego, by its very standing is doomed. Its very standing is on dukkha, on a sense of limitation. In fact, it is nothing but a sense of limitation. Therefore, all you have to do to be sad is to remember yourself. So, you just need to remind yourself of how limited you are. What happens sometimes is that you forget yourself because the samsara has so many fascinating objects that can take your attention away from yourself for the time being. That is when you forget yourself, when you laugh and pick up those gleaming moments of joy. This is what I'm reminded of in the introduction to Atma Bodh, when Swamiji talks of, Swami Chinmayananda talks of how the mind tends to get onto some distraction instead of contemplating on itself and saying, who am I? What is this? Why is this joy? Why is this sorrow? Instead of that, it hooks on to something outside. It could be materialistic. It could be some sense pleasure. It could even be some pilgrimage. It could even be some religious activity. It is only fooling itself, because that is exactly when, in those times, in those moments, you forget yourself. Then afterwards, you come back to remember yourself, and that is enough to make you sad. And we go on and on in this cycle. So whenever I forget myself, I am fine. And whenever I remember myself, this myself here is that limited self. I feel sad because of the I that I am. Therefore, dukkha samyoga is my self-identity. From lifetimes, it has been my self-identity. Because I identify with the body, mind, sense complex, which is limited, I take myself to be limited and I say, this is me. If this is me, then of course I am dukkhi. Fortunately, however, this is not me. So that is the game changer over here, is that this dukkhi is not who I am. When I say this is me, I'm actually repeating this a bit. Yesterday we did, but I want to go through this. This is me. Then I want to get rid of myself. How can you get rid of yourself? Wherever you go, you are there very much. This is why wherever you go, you carry your dukkha with you. You do not even need a situation to cause you dukkha. You just go and it will be there with you. Furthermore, you will contribute your dukkha to others. Even if you go to a place where everyone is laughing, sitting in a corner, you will create dukkha in that place because you have brought dukkha with you. This then is the nature of a samsari. It is not something unique to a given person. Every samsari, wherever he or she goes, is going to create dukkha in that place because he or she is a dukhi. Then this is samyoga, the union between Atma and Anatma. Atma Anatma Samyoga. The word dukhi reveals an I, a person, and that person is separate from what causes the person sorrow, dukkha. The person is what we call Atma, and what causes the person dukkha is Anatma. And between this person, is Atma and Anatma, there is Samyoga. How did the person get this Samyoga? Atma, as we have seen, is pure Chaitanya, consciousness. Its nature is consciousness. It does not have any kind of attribute. If Atma had any attribute, it would stick there always, and you would not be able to know anything new. The nature of Atma consciousness then does not have any particular attribute. This being so, how is it that this consciousness has samyoga? How is that between Atma and Anatma there is samyoga? Ignorance makes the impossible possible. Consciousness has no samyoga, in fact. Samyoga is possible because of ignorance, avidya. By definition, ignorance is capable of making the impossible possible. Avidya is capable of doing anything. It can even make a snake out of a rope and mirage water out of a desert. Ignorance can do all these things because there is a lack of knowledge. This means that the connection between Atma and Anatma, Atma-Anatma Sambandha, is brought about purely by aviveka, the lack of discriminative knowledge. Therefore, that there is dukkha samyoga is established. So it's because of avidya and aviveka that this Atma-Anatma Sambandha, that the person I recognizes himself as the dukhi. I'm limited, I'm small, I'm ignorant. And he associates himself with that dukkha. Whenever he is associating with anatma, that samyoga happens between the atma and atma. When dukkha samyoga is established, and I understand this samyoga, then the next step is to find the way to withdraw from this dukkha. But because the connection itself is born of avidya, there is no physical withdrawal possible. The association with dukkha being born of a lack of discrimination, dissociation from the association that Krishna refers to here as dukkha samyoga viyoga can only be by knowledge. Association with dukkha is due to a self-loss, a self-confusion, and therefore a self-non-self identity. That is resolved by discriminative knowledge. In other words, I have to know that Atma is Atma and Anatma is Anatma, but that Atma is not Anatma. Therefore, there is nothing separate from me. If Atma and Anatma were two separate entities enjoying the same reality, then there could be no moksha. Any inquiry would just bring in one more item because of which one would feel separate. Atma would be one entity sitting somewhere and the many anatmas would be something different. Again, you would have the same problem, but you would be extending it to include the separate entity called Atma. So I'll read this again. If Atma and Anatma were two separate entities enjoying the same reality, then there could be no moksha. An inquiry would just bring in one more item because of which one would feel separate. Atma would be one entity sitting somewhere and the many anatmas would be something different. Again, you would have the same problem, but you would be extending it to include the separate entity called Atma. There is only Atma. I will just read this one also. We'll take a few minutes. I know we've reached 6:30, but we stopped here only yesterday also. Unfortunately or fortunately, Anatma is never separate from Atma at any time. No thought can exist apart from consciousness, that is Atma. While one depends upon the other does not depend upon it. Viyoga means seeing Atma as distinct from Atma. I mean, I think it is, Viyoga means seeing Atma as distinct from Anatma, not Atma, right? Now you have a situation wherein Dukkha Samyoga itself is not there.
Jai Gurudev, Dr. Brahmara, this line, Viyoga means seeing Atma as distinct from Atma. This was the only line which I could not follow in this whole shloka.
Yeah.
But it is not Anatma, it must be having some other meaning. So that this line I wanted to clarify, like if you can ask Nanaji.
I will ask him, certainly.
Though it is Atma as distinct from Anatma, from like what we are figuring out, but maybe it is written correctly and we are not able to decipher it properly.
I will certainly check with him. I'll check with him.
Thank you.
So now you have a situation wherein Dukkha Samyoga itself is not there. Unless you take the thought of any other Anatma as I. See, because here he's talking of Anatma here. Anyway, we'll clarify this. This is because Anatma is not distinct from Atma. This then is the yoga of Dukkha Samyoga Viyoga, which is more a dissociation than an association. The binding material could go away, but since it is a dissociation, there is no possibility of the mind coming away from Atma. Whatever you are bound to can go away, which is what happens with any happiness that depends on time and various other conditions. When the conditions change, any experience, whatever it is gone. Therefore, anything experiential is definitely dependent upon or associated with conditions, and it will go away. But if it is not experiential, if it is more a dissociation from your false association, it will not go away. This dissociation is what is called dissociation by knowledge. Jnanena viyogaha. There is nothing physical about it because Anatma is Atma. You cannot pull Atma away from Anatma, nor is there any necessity to do so because Atma is in no way involved with Anatma. This recognition, this knowledge, which is more a dissociation than an association, is what Krishna calls yoga here. May one know that dissociation from the association with sorrow is yoga. Tam dukkha samyoga viyogam yogam vidyat, he says. I think we'll stop here today, and I will certainly come back on this clarification. So it is like the snake is so intrinsically linked with the rope in ignorance. It is only that knowledge that that snake is not, that the rope is the rope and not the snake, that snake disappears. Similarly, the anatma is such a superimposition on the atma. It's a misapprehension. So the only thing required is that dissociation, and that happens only with jnana. Jnanena viyogaha. So there is no physical separation as such. Let's do this tomorrow, okay? Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev, thank you. Jai Gurudev.